The Red Dragon pack tore through the outer rim like a storm of teeth and flame. Their warships, jagged obsidian hulls etched with glowing crimson runes, slid out of hyperspace above the dead world of Kryx 7. Captain Vorik stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, the Bloodfang, his scaled tail lashing the metal deck. Towering over 8 feet, his body rippled with corded muscle beneath blood-red armor. Horns curved back from his skull like blades, and his yellow eyes burned with the hunger that defined his entire species. "Scans complete," hissed the sensor officer. "No major defenses. Primitive signals only. This sector is soft." Vorik's lips peeled back from rows of razor teeth. "Good. The pack needs blood. We have hunted too long without a worthy fight." The Red Dragon pack numbered in the thousands across their fleet, elite warriors bred for conquest. They lived by one code: take what you want, crush what resists, and feast on the fear of lesser races. For generations they had swept through alien empires, leaving ruined planets and broken fleets in their wake. Now they sought new territory, and this cluster of systems looked ripe. Shuttles dropped toward the surface. Vorik led the first wave himself, armor clanking as he marched down the ramp onto rocky ground. Dust swirled around clawed feet. His warriors fanned out, plasma rifles glowing. They moved like predators, silent and deadly. A scout raised a clawed hand. "Captain, life signs ahead." Small settlement. They found it quickly, a cluster of metal domes and solar arrays huddled in a valley. Humans. The word meant little to Vorik at first. Just another weak species. He had crushed dozens like them. The settlement's outer fence was basic chain link. Vorik ripped a section free with one hand and tossed it aside. Alarms began to wail. From the domes, figures emerged, taller than expected, but still small compared to his kind. They wore simple uniforms and carried rifles that looked almost toy-like. "Leave or die," one human shouted through a translator device. Vorik laughed, a deep rumbling sound that echoed off the rocks. He raised his plasma cannon and fired once. The bolt turned the nearest dome into molten slag. His warriors charged with roars that shook the ground. The humans fought back harder than anticipated. They used cover well, darting between boulders and ruined buildings. Bullets pinged off dragon armor, but a few lucky shots found joints. One warrior fell, howling. Vorik felt a spark of excitement. Maybe this would not be too easy after all. He waded into the fight, swinging a massive vibro axe. Each strike sent humans flying. Blood, red like his own armor, splashed across the dust. His pack howled in joy. This was what they lived for. Yet something bothered him. These humans did not break and run as most species did. They fell back in good order, covering each other, dragging wounded with them. One human soldier, face streaked with dirt, stood his ground longer than the rest. He fired a grenade that exploded against Vorik's shield, staggering the big captain for a moment. Vorik snarled and charged. The human dove aside at the last second, rolling behind wreckage. Before Vorik could follow, more grenades rained down. The pack pulled back slightly to regroup. "Interesting," Vorik growled. "They have spirit." By nightfall the settlement lay in ruins. The surviving humans had retreated into underground tunnels. Vorik stood among the flames, breathing in the smoke. His warriors counted their kills and boasted loudly. But the captain's eyes lingered on the tunnel entrance. He could sense more fighting ahead. Good. The pack had grown bored with easy victories. Deep below, in the emergency bunker, Sergeant Marcus Kane checked his remaining ammunition. His squad was down to 14 effectives. The aliens had come without warning, massive, brutal, and clearly enjoying the slaughter. But Marcus had faced death before on Frontier Worlds. He wiped blood from a cut above his eye and looked at his people. "We hold here," he said quietly. "They want blood? We'll make them choke on it." The dragons did not wait long. Explosives ripped the tunnel mouth open. Vorik led the assault down the stairs, night vision turning the dark into green daylight. His warriors poured after him, hungry for more. Marcus waited in the first choke point. When the lead aliens rounded the corner, he triggered the prepared charges. The explosion collapsed part of the ceiling, crushing 2 dragons under tons of rock. His squad opened fire from cover, concentrated bursts aimed at eyes and joints. Vorik roared in fury as one of his lieutenants fell beside him. He returned fire blindly, plasma bolts chewing through concrete. The humans were clever. They used the tunnels like a maze, falling back, setting traps, striking from shadows. Hours passed in brutal close-quarters fighting. The dragon's superior strength and armor gave them the edge in open rooms, but the tight corridors favored the smaller, faster humans. Marcus moved like a ghost, directing his people with hand signals and short commands. He had studied old Earth warfare, guerrilla tactics, ambushes, making every meter cost the enemy dearly. At one junction, Vorik finally came face to face with the same stubborn human from the surface. Marcus stood alone in the corridor, rifle empty, a combat knife in his hand. The big dragon captain loomed over him, axe raised. "You fight well for prey," Vorik rumbled. Marcus didn't answer with words. He lunged low, slashing at the armor joint behind the knee. The blade bit deep. Vorik bellowed and swung. Marcus barely dodged, the axe blade sparking off the wall inches from his head. They danced in the narrow space. Alien brute force against human speed and desperation. Vorik's tail whipped around, catching Marcus across the ribs and slamming him into the wall. Pain flared, but the sergeant rolled away, stabbing upward again. This time the knife found a gap under the arm plate. Blackish blood welled up. Vorik backhanded Marcus hard enough to send him tumbling down the corridor. The human crashed into a crate, gasping. Before the captain could finish him, more explosions rocked the tunnel behind the dragons. The rest of Marcus's squad had circled around through maintenance shafts. They hit the alien rear hard. Vorik hesitated. His warriors were taking unexpected losses. These humans refused to die easily. "Pull back," he ordered reluctantly. "We will burn them out from above." As the dragons retreated up the tunnel, Marcus lay against the wall, breathing hard. His side burned and blood trickled from his mouth, but he was alive. His people gathered around him. "They're not done," he said. "But neither are we." The surface battle had been fierce, but the real war was just beginning. Vorik returned to his ship with mixed feelings, anger at the resistance, but also a growing respect for these strange creatures called humans. The Red Dragon Pack had come seeking easy blood. Instead, they had found something far more dangerous. The fleet above Kryx, 7 adjusted its formation. Vorik paced the bridge, his wounded arm bandaged with smart gel. The cut from the human's knife still throbbed. Never before had a single lesser being injured him so personally. "Orbital bombardment ready," the weapons officer reported. Vorik stared at the view screen showing the ruined settlement. "Target the underground network. Cook them slowly." Plasma lances stabbed down from the sky. The ground glowed red as rock melted. Deep in the bunkers, temperature warnings screamed. Marcus's squad moved fast, sealing sections and shifting to secondary shelters. Sweat poured down their faces as the air grew scorching. "We can't stay here forever," Corporal Reyes said, coughing. Marcus nodded. "Then we take the fight to them." While the bombardment continued, a small team slipped out through a hidden maintenance hatch miles away. They moved at night across the rocky terrain, carrying what weapons and explosives remained. Their target, one of the dragon shuttles left lightly guarded on the outskirts. Vorik, meanwhile, had grown impatient. He took a strike team back to the surface to hunt personally. His warriors spread out in hunting packs, sniffing the air for human scent. They found traces, blood, footprints, discarded gear. One group cornered 3 humans near a ravine. The fight was short and ugly. But another human fire team ambushed a different dragon squad from high ground, using captured plasma weapons. The tide of battle shifted in small, brutal moments. Marcus led the raid on the shuttle. They killed the guards quietly with knives and silenced shots. Inside the craft, Reyes worked frantically on the controls. "I can fly this thing," she whispered. "Barely." They lifted off under fire as more dragons rushed the landing zone. Plasma bolts chased them into the sky. Marcus manned the turret, shooting back as best he could. The stolen shuttle climbed unevenly toward the dragon fleet. Vorik received the alert on the Bloodfawn. They stole a shuttle? Impossible. He ordered interceptors launched. Dogfights erupted in low orbit. Human piloting was rough, but unpredictable. Marcus's team used the shuttle's own weapons against nearby dragon fighters, scoring surprising hits. The stolen craft made it close enough to the Bloodfawn for a desperate maneuver. They crashed into a hangar bay in a controlled explosion of twisted metal. Alarms blared throughout the capital ship. Marcus and his surviving squad, now only 8, emerged shooting. Chaos spread through the corridors. Red Dragon warriors rushed to contain the intruders. Vorik himself stormed toward the hangar, axe in hand. He could smell the human blood and sweat. The fighting inside the ship was nightmarish. Narrow hallways favored neither side completely. Humans used every trick, overloading panels to create fires, setting booby traps with grenades, fighting hand-to-hand when ammunition ran low. Marcus moved like a man possessed. He had lost too many friends on the surface. Now he wanted payback. When he rounded a corner and saw Vorik again, both leaders froze for a split second. "You," the dragon captain growled. Marcus raised a captured plasma pistol. "Me." They charged. The corridor became a storm of violence. Vorik's axe swung in deadly arcs. Marcus dodged, weaved, and fired. A bolt grazed the dragon's shoulder. Vorik roared and caught the human with a backswing, sending him sliding across the deck. But Marcus got up. He always got up. Around them, the ship's systems began failing as other human teams reached critical areas. Explosions rocked the Bloodfawn. Vorik's warriors were being stretched thin, fighting both inside and against human reinforcements that had somehow launched from hidden underground silos. The captain realized with growing fury that these humans had prepared better than any species the pack had faced. They had turned the entire planet into a trap. Vorik pressed the attack harder. His axe blade nicked Marcus's shoulder, drawing fresh blood. The human grunted but countered with a vicious kick to the dragon's injured knee. Both fighters were tiring, armor cracked, and bodies bruised. "Enough games," Vorik snarled. He activated a hidden wrist blade and lunged. Marcus sidestepped at the last moment. He grabbed the dragon's arm, using the alien's own momentum to slam him against the bulkhead. Then he drove his combat knife straight into the gap near Vorik's neck. The blade sank deep. The big captain howled. He threw Marcus off with a surge of strength, sending the human crashing through a doorway into an engineering section. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Coolant leaked across the floor. Outside the ship, the battle in space had turned desperate. Human defense platforms, previously hidden, activated and opened fire on the Dragon fleet. Smaller, agile fighters swarmed the larger warships. The Red Dragons fought with savage skill, but coordination broke down as their flagship took heavy damage. Inside the Bloodfawn, Marcus staggered to his feet. Vorik followed, blood dripping from his neck wound. The dragon moved slower now, but still terrifyingly strong. They traded blows among the pipes and machinery. A lucky strike from Vorik shattered Marcus's rifle. The human switched to fists and knife. "You should have run," Vorik hissed. "We don't run from bullies," Marcus replied through gritted teeth. He ducked under a swing and stabbed upward again, twisting the blade. Vorik's roar shook the room. The dragon grabbed Marcus by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Black spots danced in the human's vision as claws dug into his neck. But Marcus had one last trick. With his free hand, he triggered a remote detonator taken from the shuttle. Charges placed by his team during their rampage exploded throughout the engineering decks. The Bloodfawn shuddered violently. Fire and decompression tore through sections. Vorik lost his balance. Marcus drove his knife into the dragon's eye. The captain screamed and dropped him. Marcus rolled away as Vorik thrashed in agony, smashing equipment. The human crawled toward an emergency hatch, bleeding heavily. Alarms screamed ship-wide evacuation. The Red Dragon warriors, seeing their flagship dying, began retreating to other vessels. Vorik, half-blind and furious, staggered after Marcus. But the human had reached a functioning escape pod. As the pod launched, Vorik watched it streak away from the exploding Bloodfawn. The captain collapsed to his knees on the hangar deck, black blood pooling around him. The remaining dragon fleet, leaderless and damaged, jumped out of the system. They had come for blood and conquest. They left with heavy losses and a new legend among their kind: beware the humans. Marcus's escape pod crashed back on Kryx, 7 near the original settlement. Rescue teams found him barely conscious among the wreckage. Medics rushed him to the surviving underground medical bay. He woke days later to the sound of celebration. The Red Dragon pack had withdrawn from the entire sector. Word spread fast through human colonies. One small outpost had turned back a brutal invasion force. Marcus became a hero, though he waved the praise away. "It wasn't just me," he said. "It was all of us." In the weeks that followed, human engineers and soldiers rebuilt what they could. New defenses went up. Alliances with neighboring systems strengthened. The story of the Red Dragon defeat traveled far, a warning to other aggressive races. Vorik survived his wounds, barely. Back among his pack, he told the council what he had learned. Humans are not prey. They are something worse. They fight when they should break. They plan when they should flee. We must be more careful. The pack licked its wounds and looked for easier targets. But the memory of Sergeant Marcus Kane and the stubborn defenders of Crix 7 lingered like a scar. Marcus stood on the surface one evening, looking up at the stars. His body ached with old and new injuries, but his eyes were clear. The galaxy was dangerous, full of monsters like the Red Dragons. Yet humans had proven they could face them and win. He smiled faintly, touched the scar on his neck, and walked back toward the lights of the growing settlement. The war was over for now, but humanity would be ready for the next one. The Red Dragon pack had sought blood. Instead, they found the unbreakable will of a species that refused to bow, and the universe would never be the same.